Well, hello there. Welcome to the Dungeon Master's Diary. I'm your Dungeon Master Moo. And today, I'll be talking about the previous session, Kaleidoscope, from the Realm War campaign streamed here on Sundays. So, I know it's the spookiest time of the year, so I'm going to try and keep it sort of spooky whilst doing some things in the background for the campaign. So, what happened last session? Well, let's get down to business. The party continued to fight through the visions of the Hasturian sun, many of them being dragged into nightmare scapes, unrelenting in their alien forms. Lucius, fighting through fields and being buried, uncovered himself becoming an old friend. Drowned in maggots and dirt. Spitz found himself free-falling and drowning at the same time, with a large, endless obelisk spiking into the sky. Gornar found himself entrapped inside of the tavern, the Blooming Rose, on which the party were staying, their walls ever so encompassing and closing, and then hurling into nothingness. As for Henry, found himself in a mine shaft. Endless tunnels seemed to stretch on forever, but nary a green glow of a distant lantern guiding his path. As for Winnie, the distant and ever so out of reach visage of her mother escaping her grips. The party figured out some very intuitive ways of defeating the insanity that came. Lucius managing to uncover slight indication of what has happened to his old accomplice and emerge safely in his bed. As for Gornar, he fell into this sort of strange environment where he had become a small particle in a large, cold drink of beer that was swallowed whole, and felt the burning of stomach acid across his skin, and woke up safely in his bed. As for Spitz, instead of climbing to the skies and then falling straight back down into an endless pool of cold, icy water, decided to submerge and go deeper and deeper to the point of nearly drowning, and emerged in his bed, safe. Henry, being Henry, decided to let a cave-in that was quickly approaching behind him consume him, and he awoke safely in his bed. As for Winifred, some strange occurrences happened. Switching places with her mother, seeing herself chase endlessly, her strange stick talking to her, to try and get an idea of what is happening, but to no avail. And eventually, as things started to envelop her, take over, almost consume her, she awoke safely in her own bed, her mother safe and sound, making breakfast. After this strange night of sleeplessness, the party had continued to make their plans to go and hunt down these wine bandits for Vankin, and made their way up to the hillsides, across this small valley crossed by a rickety old bridge. The tracks still there, and they decided to pounce whilst the iron was hot, because if they had had no sleep, so might the bandits. Lucius threw himself into the fray, acting as a lost diplomat to these bandits, successfully deceiving them to a point where they accepted him in for a drink of wine and perhaps a meal. Their leader, a half-drow by the name of Aiden, seemed to be courteous yet sharp towards Lucius's affiliations and birthplace, as well as his political status. After some discernings, the party started to uncover the fact that perhaps these guys are not the bandits, and turned their attention to a courier, of whom they stopped in the middle of the road, almost out of the shadows, like a pair of bandits. And after some unsuccessful convincing, the courier decided to run alongside a somewhat empty cart. However, Spitz, with a strong arm, unknocked the poor courier unconscious with a simple stone. Henry, on the other hand, saw the stone as the signal to attack the bandits' camp, and has now found himself alone in the bushes against a pair, nay, a team of deserted soldiers. And that is where we left off. So, that was a wild session. One, I got to go into a very strange mental state where things just didn't seem to operate under the laws of physics. My favorite scene of that being Spitz trying to climb up the obelisk, and then the gravity basically inverting as he reaches a certain point and then starts falling upwards, and then almost as if strangely the sky becomes the lake and he just plunges back down into the darkness, as it were. I enjoyed that, and his thinking of going deeper into the water at the expense of potentially drowning, that was a great solution, which was the actual solution, was to continue going deeper. I was expecting him to take a couple of more attempts to do it, but, it took an hour for everyone to safely do it. Coroner's one was quite an odd thing to try and think of, and just having this entire space enclose on him, making this small claustrophobic box, I thought it was a great idea. And then the trapdoor's opening and he plunges into a glass of beer and gets swallowed. That was very much a trippy visual. Lucius one was kind of character based. I was like, what could be changed? What could be a potential danger that could be in Lucius's mind? Because it's an unknown factor. And I thought, he has a lot of strange friends, but no more so than Crow, the masked something. And I thought, okay, what about a disfigured corpse-like version of Crow chasing Lucius from the ground? That was a fun interpretation of just the incoming dread and then the end game being pulled under the ground and buried, essentially. Henry's one, I don't know what I was going with. I was intending to work off of, fear. I don't know if Henry would have an instinctive fear of cave-ins or, being crushed under a mountain. But I thought, he is a miner. He digs for ores, and it's dark, it's dangerous, and it just sort of crumbled around him. I thought, okay. And I was expecting him to, keep running, but eventually he just went, sod it. Helm's protecting me, I'm going to just take it. And I was like, fair. That is the solution. It's just to let it take you. Winnie's one was a little bit harder to do, due to the fact that Owl is a new player and it's a new character that I only got the backstory for the previous day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pinpoint some stuff here that could potentially work, and I need to characterize the stick a little more. Man, I love that stick. That stick is great. I just love it. And seeing that interaction, that sort of relationship that Winifred has with her mother, who I mistook for being an elf, but it's the father that's the elf, not the mother, because every other party member has like the defining racial aspect of them being the mother, which is kind of canon, I suppose. It is kind of in line with the canon and like the lore of the world. It's you will gain more of your mother's features than your father's features, depending on what race they are. It tends to stem from the mother. So like if you have an orcish mother, you've got more orcish features. You have a human mother, you've got more human features, stuff like that. Because females in Eurathan have a more dominant genetic pool, as it were. And I can't believe I made the mistake. It was down to one, having the backstory the day before and pretty much just scanning through it with my eyes as fast as I could, picking up key points. It was literally like highlighting information with my eyes. And the one thing I miss out is the race of the mother. I'm like, oops. Yeah. The bandits being deserters was something I concocted the night before as well. I was just relaxing, glass of whiskey in hand, watching I think it was just catching up on the new Star Trek Discovery, and the idea just sort of sprung into my head. I was like, I don't want these guys just to be bandits. One's very thematic, and who would be bandits? I thought, deserters. What about that? What's the reason for being there? What could potentially tie them to the wine? And that sort of tied everything together. It was really, really fun. And then it was a matter of how do I make these characters, real in a sense. And I just had to give a couple of them names, really. I was like, okay, I can't come up with a name for a half elf, like a half elf / half drow. Okay, it's gonna be, it'll have to be somewhat human and somewhat elvish. So what I did was, I was like, okay, I can't think of a name, and then I just went, I need something that gives off that brash sort of feeling, and the name Aiden came to mind because that's my brother's name, and he is blunt as all hell, and I love it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to drop the I in the name, and it's Adin or Aiden. And Guinevere, being, I think originally I did say she was an elven archer. She's actually a dwarf. Changed my mind, see? It's a great thing. DMs can retcon their own stuff. So that's great. She never misses a shot, so they say. So having that, and then it was just Henry, just at the last second, just being like, hey, I'm going to charge at them. I saw the stone was thrown. And I'm like, oh dear. And he shouts, bandits, and they shout bandits back, because they're scared of bandits too. So it's kind of like this little headbutt. And surprisingly, it makes a really weird dynamic. I think I discussed it a couple of Dungeon Master's Diaries ago, talking about the Barbie and Ken doll clashes. This is going to be one of the fights where I just basically took a blowtorch to them, melted them, and tries to squish them all together in some, I don't know, John Carpenter's The Thing sort of style. But yeah, we shall move to the other screen and continue discussing as I build some special cards for future use in the campaign. And here we are. Probably wondering what the hell are these things? These are called Battle Tactic cards, and the other one's called the Dispatch Tactic card. These will be useful little tools in the future, using basically a template from another add-in that I have on Roll20 that I paid for with actual money, and it's great, and I love it. Called inspiration cards, and they have a little template so you can make your own little custom ones. And I think at one point I made one called Wee Jesus, and it was great. Wee Jesus cards save the day. But I basically have a handful of these to do today. I'm not going to put in any backgrounds. I'm just going to create little skins for them, and hopefully get this sorted. And if you hear really loud banging in the background, I'm just moving a lot of stuff around right at the moment. So I'm just going to move over to my fellow players' little inputs here. Let's see. Jesus sent me in one for a battle tactic. Send out skirmishers that harass the enemies in advance. To harass the enemy's advance. Okay. I would have to reword that a little bit due to the fact that skirmishers are a part of like a team where if they move too far away from a regiment, it basically disconnects them and they become a lot more vulnerable. Skirmishers are basically the free moving element of your army. So what I'll do, let's see here, I will change my attention over to a dispatch tactic then. It's one that I can work on a little bit quicker. Called, it says, send envoys with poisoned wine. Smells like almonds. Sorry. Smell of almonds. I'm gonna adjust this just ever so slightly so it's a little bit more centered. As for the rest of the session, little tidbits that I'm gonna just mention and discuss a little bit. The main one being the stick. Stick is definitely something I never anticipated, due to the fact that Winnie is a hexblade, a hex lock, and because I had to read in a little bit more about hexblades. They either make a pact with a sentient hexblade, which is an ancient weapon of the Raven Queen, or a sentient weapon in general that has enough power to do it. I thought, well, in the backstory, it's a stick that you pick up and you got powers from, so the stick is technically the sentient weapon, but what sent it there? What could it be? And lots of the backstory has taken place to me, so that's where scanning a backstory for key points becomes essential, because it ties into the backstory. What the stick is, or what the stick's voice is an important part of Winnie's backstory, and it will be revealed over time of what the stick is. And trying to characterize that the best I could, it was great. Because what's better to do something so horrible and twisted to your players than to twist the knife of the backstory in their back? So, apologies to you, Owl. You're in danger. Well, you're not really. It's your feelings are in danger. So yeah, Stick's personality was an important aspect for me. I wanted to create a little bit of humor that's intelligent or like wise and charismatic, rather than Henry's sense of humor, which is I'm just a guy that doesn't understand the world. Screw it. And I thought it was quite important to highlight a key difference in the humor, that one is a dwarf and one is a stick. Now, humorous things happen in the sessions anyway. The whole town getting extremely tired, trying to obtain things from Kaza, but she's so tired she just sort of just takes stuff out of her little safe, takes one order and just goes, "I'm leaving," and she disappears. And Vankin passing out in the beer cellar, and then Lucius putting him on top of a bag of flour. That's funny, because I was like, that's probably a dirty bag of flour that's probably covered in flour. He's gonna wake up with like fur matted with chunks. And I thought, yeah, that's quite funny. And you make your own humor. And when the party decided to, basically reinvestigate the area, I was like, why? Like, this is my own interpretations and own opinions, obviously. The players might have had a different mindset to me, and it was, why are you investigating again the same spots that you looked at yesterday in game? And it just sort of never thought to occur to me. And I was like, doesn't quite make sense. Personally, it slowed it down. Should be moved from point A. You've seen this point, and the only reason I would put it in there is if there was another key difference that could happen. But I had a spare screen open that was rolling potentials in the background, and obviously I should have just moved them onto the next map, because the thing that was meant to change didn't change. And they were comfy. Stretch back. And the key part of that was the courier. Now, the courier was a little, basically like a mini clue in of itself at the start, and I hoped that it would just plant the seed of who is to blame for the wine, and that nice, perfect crescendo, pretty much, that nice rise of, I've seeded doubt, and now the doubt is here. And it's either these guys are in, they're pally with the courier, or the courier is pally with them, and they've got some sort of business arrangement. Turns out, they're kind of right. There's a lot more to the story than meets the eye. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes, and I hope, I just praying, because I've written like 4 pages of stuff for like potential outcomes that could happen from this one little quest. The first actual proper quest in the whole campaign as of right now. It's been like 8 sessions, 9 tomorrow, that the party basically gone without a quest. There's been no directive. And now finally that they have a directive, and they're like, okay, we need to hunt down the wine thieves, and they've uncovered some clues, and they found the camp with bandits, and then they find the courier, and the courier doesn't have the wine. It's like, oh, maybe the courier did it. Oh, maybe the bandits really did it. The bandits aren't bandits, they're deserters, so they could still be bandits, and just really good at lying. And the courier's acting shifty. And the courier ran. We knocked him unconscious with a stone. Now Henry's attacking the camp because the stone was thrown. Oh, my days. And I'm just hoping that they can just peel the next layer off this onion of sadness that is this quest. There's so much more to this little mission than I have let on. You know, it's a snowball quest, essentially. It's not going to be a main one. It could be a main one. It depends on if that direction shoves them that way, which I'm still working on because I don't know the outcome of tomorrow. And once I do, I can be like, okay, go down my 4 pages and just put a pin in that and then send them that way. And I know you've been staring at this Photoshop screen for a while, so it's I'm gonna just change this. So dispatch. No, yeah, it is. Emissaries. There we go. There's a dispatch card. Apologies for the silence. I was just focusing. So where was I? This, like I was saying, it's an onion of sadness. This mission, I have dubbed it, the taste of blood and wine, which is the working title. So I was like, this sounds a lot like the Witcher DLC, so I'm gonna change it, and I just hope that, you know, they don't just basically barge in, pretty much. Now, this is me trying to influence player decision. It's me simply stating the fact that there's a lot more potential and a lot more storytelling that I could give them if they just slow the boat a little bit. Just drop the oars for a second and not just barge in, hack them to pieces, and that's it. You know, mission accomplished, got them, don't know where the wine is, stuff like that. But if they do that, there is a fallback scenario, and it will, you know, Vankin's sort of story will come into play, and I hope to keep them in Tiberton a little bit longer, just a little bit, not by days or quite a while, just enough to get them, you know, just sort of understanding that not everyone in the world's out to get them, but there are some people that will pretend to get along with you and then just Caesar you, just, you know, and that's it. And that's why the war setting is very important. You don't know who's a spy. You don't know where these people come from. anything. You don't know their history, and I thought, enemies just don't humanoids, sentient creatures, don't get enough a story. They don't get enough character. They're basically just meat blocks you put in the way of characters to slow them down, so that you can prepare the next area or to give them a little bit of loot. And personally, I feel like having just that little touch of humanity to them makes it so much more believable. So it's like, yeah, we deserve it, because we've literally, this is the last of our team. We were a squadron of X amount. Now there's 5 of us, and we're just trying to survive. And that's an important thing for Aiden. It's similar to the party. They're just trying to survive and get to Vatha. These guys are trying to survive and stay away from the military police, the guards, the war in general, and just try to survive by the kindness of strangers. And now the kindness of strangers looks like bandits. And my favorite thing was, it's not going to happen now. Well, it might. Is if the party had just went away entirely and got back to the town after Lucius's convincing character description of this white-haired elf, this long white-haired elf, just having this group of deserters who never really intended to come off as scary. They are very defensive and can come off quite aggressive and don't want people to interact with them because it gives away their position. If they had went away, over time, Aiden's band would have started looking for this person. They might still, if they make it out alive. And what's worrying me more is that one of the players, Rook, he's not going to be there tomorrow. So Spitz is completely just puncher at the moment, because I will not, in my own right, influence a character. I will not speak for them. I'll just bang, bang, bang. I'll punch for them. But I have been given, the right directives on what to do. And I can do that combat-wise. I cannot do it RP-wise. I don't have enough grasp on the character yet. As for seeing some development from characters, I quite enjoyed, a new player, new character. Quite a good section, that small morning section after the Hasturian sun visions, was Winnie's interaction with her mother. I just wanted to create this almost overbearing feeling. I'm just gonna sort this out. Apparently Yoshi is in the chat. Just hiding up there. Having that initial relationships established immediately creates a lot more player DM interaction. So when the player returns to said character and there's something just slightly different with the behaviors, that character would know something is wrong, as would the player. Or, there's an expectation. It's okay, when he comes back to the mother and she's, hospitable. She's cooking, she's making tea, and stuff like that. Just, general maintaining of the house. Just, keeping an eye on the lad. As for Lucius, got a little bit of an insight into how he operates, of how he is basically a con artist in his own right. That was very creative. I was expecting the guys just to jump in there and just attack them, and then the sort of diplomatic part would start to happen. But taking the diplomatic step first, great move. A nice little change of pace. And trying to avoid the violence before it even starts. Great idea. Coronar, I'm still trying to figure out who he is as a character. As a DM, I have not received a full backstory yet, so I don't actually quite know Jeeves, he's struggling to see where the character's going. That's fine. Backstories don't have to be perfect. I can just let you be bullet points, and I can still work with that. It's gonna be some key people, some key places, and where you came from. And then boom, that's enough for me, because that creates enough mystery for me just to hook you. And now I've noticed in the camera, it looks like I'm looking up there. I'm actually looking dead straight at everyone. Pretty much what I'm going to try and do. Oh my lord, there's a lot of movement inside. What I'm going to try and do is try and just claw a little bit more. And having the camp system as well provides an opportunity for tiny little dents of RP. And I love that. I love that little aspect that Difficliff just stuck in there. And we're going to be talking more about that in on Monday's Phylactery podcast, which is potentially going to be the first time Owl will join us. I'm not sure if he will. It's up to himself. Just talking about the rule sets and what we're doing and own homebrew rules and rule of cool sort of limits and stuff. And that trying to influence Spitz as a character, kind of hard. I don't have the right amount of push yet. He needs to be a little bit further north for me to, as in like quite physically north. He needs to be near Vatha sort of region, that sort of like belt across the top of Mitras, before I can start working things for that character. And an important thing that I establish is not everyone's backstories will be used to their fullest. I'll try, but if you're in the wrong place, I can't just shoehorn things in. I try my best not to, but if it's the only way I can get a little bit of just a little energy, we'll hopefully have the right thing to happen. I want the right reaction. I want to see, if and when I introduce an orcish tribe, like an actual full orc tribe, to Spitz, what would his reaction be? I want to see that. And the most important one would be, there's a couple along this sort of belt near the Ybor River, which is like geographically is the largest river in Eurathon. It's huge. It's about 30 kilometers wide and it flows really quickly for a river that big. It's massive. It's a huge river, and there's a lot of people that have settled there. There's literally towns on the river. But these orc tribes, I just wanted their own cultural differences, and their slight language differences as well. I want to just see how Spitz will interact with that part of his life, or his history, his culture, and what culture because how I see Spitz, he is so isolated, he's so alone in his own world that he has to fight to make himself feel like he belongs. But what's the word? He's kind of like a lost, like a pet. He's trying to find where he belongs. He's trying to find home, essentially. So if I start introducing all these pretty much lore-based, historical orcish tribes, will he find the one that he feels most comfortable with, or will he try and understand the one that he comes from? Say they don't mix ideals really well. Then yeah, I want to see that. As for Henry, his interaction this session was very much based on his religion. Now, I know 5e paladins don't need to have a religion, but I always ask for a god, because at least it gives me a place to work from. It's like, okay, you don't necessarily need to have one, it can just be a very empowered oath, but it's divine magic. So there is a god at play. It doesn't have to be like an actual god, it can be a demigod, an over-god, it could be a pantheonic god. Not going to be the creator god, or one of the creator gods. There was multiple, but the main one is like the maker, the Dawn Father, quote quote, which is a dead god now. The throne of the creator lies empty. Having that, Henry praying for his friend to basically wake up and be saved, that was important. And then the vision, having the armored hands of hell to pull Henry into this unknown and the strange world, was important, very much so. And I wanted to try and exemplify the fact that sometimes your faith won't save you. It sometimes has to come from within, and you have to try and face the danger, not just run away from it. And Henry facing the thing that was basically death in his vision was that nice little stepping stone, like just the first move of a pawn across a chessboard, and it was just, mwah, I loved it. It is a point in fact of mental character building. You can see it through their interactions, but them doing it being alone, it's important. It's like, okay, pretty much I'm not going to make it out here. If I keep going down this path, I'm just going to get lost in madness. If I turn and face the thing that is trying to push me towards it, I believe I can make it. I might not, but at the end of the day, it's my choice. It's not my God's choice, it's me. And that is an important thing. So it's kind of proving that Henry doesn't necessarily need his faith to continue. He just needs the drive personally to continue. Like, keep fighting for what he believes in, and he's not exactly the most orthodox Helmian there is. And I think that I would like to see more development of that from just things I throw at them. It'll be nice. Hopefully doesn't just run into fights that maybe are a little bit out there for him. Chances are Aiden's band will win. There is a very high chance that they will win. They won't kill them. They might kill them. We don't know yet. We don't know. We just simply don't know until the danger comes. And you know what? We've been staring at this for a while. Just get to see a more full, lovely face, I suppose. Because, dear fucking Christ. So, at the end of it, I am hoping to have these little tiny stepping stones of character development, which every bit of character development should be. It shouldn't just be dumped. It should never be just lore dumped. You can dump a little bit, like a story. Like, that's fine. Like a little story. It's not lore dumping, it's kind of like intrigue with a bit of backstory, like a little bit of lore to yourself. Very important. Definitely. And I think having that aspect of building character from here on, as the decisions that the party make tomorrow will impact their path, their own development, and having a serious implication in their future. How they continue bad things might happen, good things might happen. Depends on what they do now. And having this little tiny aspect, as it were, this tiny little aspect of camaraderie, them devising a plan, like making assumptions, falling into each other's sort of tunnel vision, and then everything's turning on its head. Best thing about a session. That creates a very both funny, serious, and gut-wrenching experience. And it's memorable. It's like, oh, remember that fight where, we thought we found the bandits, and turns out they might not be bandits. And we totally knocked a courier unconscious with a fucking stone. That was funny, because if he rolled any lower than 7, he would have kept running. 7 was the courier's max HP, just knocked him clean out. I love that. That was my favorite part. The session, just like dunk. What I'm hoping for is over time, as we put more out there, more streams continue to go out there, and we try and create this little community of big nerds and friendly people and people that just want to create and enjoy and build a brighter future. We just hope to have a nice little bubble in this Twitchverse and create something together, experience these crazy, chaotic things as one. I hope to have a perfect little ensemble, as it were, just to see how people are taking this experience. Is there anything that could change? I try and be as inclusive as I can in my campaigns. I don't try and push out any differences. I try and address situations sometimes, like religious bias, conflicts, racial discrimination, talk about discrimination of sex and orientation and everything. I try and encompass that. It's not like a political thing. It's more just like, this is a thing that I personally would like to see addressed, and what part of the world would explain that the most. And something that always comes into my head when I'm doing these is, I want to include cultural aspects of things, like from the real world. Can I incorporate these without coming across as either kind of colonial or somewhat I don't know what the word would be. Colonial is the best word I can think of, actually. I'm not trying to just appropriate a culture. I'm trying to see what would the Eurathon version of this be. For example, there's an NPC that Yoshi, the player for Lucius, keeps we went through the Journal of Mandrake Song in our private messages, and one character comes up, and it's Nocturne, who is a tabaxi samurai, pretty much, from a place in Kagara called the Reach, which is very sort of Eastern Asia area. So I was like, how would these people sound, and how do I make it not racist? And then a great little example came to me, because I recently purchased Ghost of Tsushima, and I was like, they have a slight twang of like Japanese islander sort of accent, but it's got that high fantasy feel, that sort of very, very Akira Kurosawa style, very dramatic. So you've got that little subtlety, and I think that's what that will be influenced by. But at the same time, like, man, it's a samurai from a place that's inspired by Eastern Asian cultures as well, like Far Eastern. I don't know if that's even more racist. And then I thought, but I've already done, Asian culture. There's a few places in slightly in Kagar, more in Andorol, which is another place in Yurathan that has very strong like Middle Eastern influences. But the one that has the most Middle Eastern influence is the Plane of Earth, and that's like the sun giants who wear these beautiful flowing like headdresses and turbans that flow down. They've got these it's like it's a traditional sort of something similar to a saber, like a colleague. It's a beautiful curved blade. Very much love that. A couple of scimitars. Is it a colleague? I hope it's a colleague. Apologies, I forget. Similar. It's a very long, like thin, bent saber. I think it's a Sikh weapon. Beautiful part of the culture. I looked a lot. I definitely don't just strip back human culture and just stick it in. I actually look into it, and I want to do that a lot more and develop its own culture from in this world. Like plant the seed and just see what Yurathan wants to develop. So I do hope to incorporate a lot more of that. I know this is like a bambling that usually happens. It's usually in the middle of these things, but this is like the end game. So I'm going to try and keep this a nice short episode because I have quite a few things to get on with today, unfortunately. This is just like a little world building sort of explanation as to what you might see as you watch these. And like I say, inclusion is important, and it's not just stripping things from reality and just plunging them into a mixing pot. I actually want to pay respect to the source material and try and develop it in its own habitat. So, samurai in Yurathan, they can be slightly different. They could be more Ronin, they could be more traditional samurai, they could be sort of a mix of both. It could just be someone that is trained in such a disciplined way that they've become so good at fighting that they're just recognized as a samurai. About honor and like strength before emotion, stuff like that. There's a lot of different things I want to do incorporate cultural wise. I don't have a lot of culture. Well, I do have quite a lot of culture in the place I come from. Bagpipes, haggis, sheep shagging, that sort of stuff. Whiskey. I try and incorporate a little bit of that as well, but it's not always dwarves. There's Scottish, and I do want to try and incorporate that, but there is incorporation coming. Like I was mentioning previously about the Orcish tribes. One of them is based on Celtic and Pictish tribes from ancient Alba, the Alba. I cannot for the life of me remember what the tribe is called. There was a name for them. But we'll see where that goes. But when I'm... No, this is an important part of what I was saying about inclusion and representation and appropriate research into a source material, is that say I do something, I want my players to both be comfortable with it and to call me out on anything that could be wrong. If they have the culture attachment or they have it as a part of their history, I want to know how to find the right sources to fix it in future. I can't just retcon something I did and learned about the following session. It's something that has to be developed, and if it takes a good smack on the wrist or punch to the back of the head, or just, a verbal scolding is what I usually get. And I just hope to make sure that anywhere that I take a part of human culture, whether it be Middle Eastern, like Far East Asia, some South American cultures, some European culture, maybe some Scandinavian or Norse culture. I hope to have, or like Native American, or sort of like just native culture. I just hope that people would understand it comes from a place of respect, and if I get it wrong, it's best to point it out and just let me know, and I will go and research a little bit more and just try and find out, or provide me with a source, and I'll go read it, and I'll go basically in these formats, be like, apologies for the XYZ thing in the campaign that happened in the session. I've since received the sources, and I've researched a little bit more, and I do apologize. I will correct it in future. And that is the sign of a responsible streaming dungeon master and a responsible world builder. Unless you want to highlight injustices, which I'm doing in this campaign pretty much. A colonizer fighting the natives. Just like, natives fight back, and they will probably win, because history ain't like that. I want to get rid of the fucking colonizers from winning. It's like, yeah, kick them out, get rid of them. But yeah, that was a long babble, and I suppose it's a spooky thing to talk about on a spooky day, which I haven't celebrated. I've just been sitting, wallowing in laziness, idle hands and all that. The scariest thing, I don't think I can be scared this year. 2020 is scary enough as it is. And just as a parting message, before I go, I've got about a minute and 20 left on this stream. Just want to say, I hope you're all safe at the moment, enjoying Halloween safely. Try and keep your spirits up. And to viewers that might be in America at the moment, I send support to you, and hope that things work out a little bit better, and you'll get a little bit better time. I understand that the world's not a fun place right now. There's a few horrible things happening in Africa at the moment, to do with policing, and that's just messed up. I can't do anything at the moment. All I've done is try and raise awareness as much as I can. There's not a lot of it on, say, Twitter, maybe Reddit, so a lot of vote stuff like that. Anything I find on Facebook, which I'm never on really, I'll try and what the fuck's it? Like stuff. Just try and boost signals. And it's a horrible place at the moment. And trying to get everything back together, trying to make this world a little bit a better place, better than you left it, And hope everyone is staying safe, and as I always do at the end of these, hello, adventurer log. So go. How are you holding up in this time? Holding on for dear life. Fingers, nails, cracking at the seams. I hope you're staying safe, and keeping yourself nice and spooky today. Adventurer log. You've literally came in on the tail end of this Dungeon Master's Diary. Just indoor drinking. That's what I do all the time, and I'm just gonna take a drink of my coffee. Just got the dregs of that. Gritty. Yeah. pretty much. You came in right in the last like minute and a half of this little stream, and it's nice of you just to drop in, and say hi and that, and if you want, you can go back and watch it later on. Talk about a few dumb things. This is basically just the babbling end of the stream where we just have a little chat, trying to address some world situations, as it were. Just making sure everyone's staying fine and healthy and wonderful. And thank you for the follow. And I hope everyone's just enjoying. Just trying to lead up. Watch the VOD later, bro. Yeah, feel free. It'll be on YouTube as well on Monday night, I think, if it uploads. But hopefully you all stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow during the actual stream of Dungeons and Dragons at 6 p.m. British Standard Time and 7 p.m. for the actual session. Just before I disappear as well, there's a community Discord. You can help grow this community and become a wonderful, fun little place for everyone. And thank you to Arcane Anthems for providing music for the little landing page. Go check them out on Patreon. But as always, stay safe out there, adventurers.